Hello, everyone. I want to start by saying that I understand the dangers of involving religion with politics. I understand the dangers of a bully pulpit as well as anyone. And I generally disapprove of religious figures making any sort of a political statement. Social issues, yes. Yes, definitely should make a political statement on issues. But as far as telling you who to vote for, not so much. However, this time I will make an exception. Now, in regards to systemic racism, 4 politicians have mentioned systemic racism. So as an anchor on TV and a few other people I've seen have mentioned systemic racism. Here's the people who advocate for the theory of systemic racism. Mayor Jacob Frey mentioned it. Governor Tim Walz mentioned systemic racism. Joe Biden mentioned systemic racism. And former President Obama, who's really not up for re-election for anything, mentioned systemic racism. Now, I'm not condemning them or saying that there is no systemic racism necessarily. There may or may not be, and I'm not condemning these politicians. However, I would like to say that if they believe in systemic racism, they should investigate themselves first. And I'm not saying that they should do introspection and soul searching. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm saying that they should launch official investigations into themselves and into their offices. And I think this is a good idea regardless. I think this is a good idea anyway, to launch official investigations into their offices. And even a historical investigation into the Obama administration and Biden's role in it and Biden's role in Congress. There should be official investigations into claims of racism from these 4 men. There should be official investigation to see if they had any racial bias, or if they enacted laws that were racist, or if and we already know Biden enacted laws that were racist because he was a senator. They should be investigated for institutionalized racism, for racism in laws, for racism in the culture of their offices and in themselves, their own personal racism. And this is if they're going to mention systemic racism, they should, in all fairness, not start necessarily with the police department, although that's a good start. They should investigate themselves as well and investigate their role in systemic racism. If they really believe strongly enough in systemic racism, and here's the clincher, and if they know what it means, then they should investigate themselves. And don't you all want that? Even the believers in systemic racism, the people who don't believe in systemic racism, and people who are undecided about systemic racism, don't you all want these officials investigated for racism? Now, it would be really nice to get the Trump administration investigated for systemic racism. But he's the leader of the land, and he's not going to agree to that because he doesn't believe in systemic racism, so there's no way to investigate him. But these individuals who are saying that there's systemic racism, start at home. Start with yourselves first. Submit to an investigation of yourself and your office, the governor's office, the presidency, and the White House in the past, and have Obama and Biden both investigated for systemic racism. And, of course, Mayor Jacob Fry's office should be investigated for systemic racism. And as far as these anchors go, like this anchor I heard the other day, I can't remember, might have been on MSNBC, I'm not sure where it was, but he said systemic racism, meaning that some of the police were racists. No way! Is that what systemic racism means? I did not know that. And if that's the case, then maybe our culture and maybe our society will ultimately decide what systemic racism means and will ultimately define it for us. Because the way it's being used and the way it's being defined is not what its creators ever intended, and it's not what I was taught in college. Colleges are teaching something about systemic racism that is very different from the way the media and the politicians have been using it. So it might ultimately be the media and the politicians who define it for us. And then it'll become, in the vernacular, a synonym for police brutality without ever taking into account all the other forms of systemic racism. So this is something to think about. So this thing where they were saying systemic racism and just using it without knowing what it meant, these politicians, really bothered me. It really bothered me that they weren't investigating themselves, even if they do understand. And I know Obama understands what it means. He founded an organization called My Brother's Keeper. And one of the things they investigate is how systemic racism has affected people of color and the youth of America. So he knows, Obama knows what systemic racism means. And since Biden is his VP, he should know also. But Obama's never going to submit to any personal investigation of racism or any investigation of his presidency, even by historians, into allegations of systemic racism. He's never going to submit to it. And Biden's not going to submit to it either. He's not going to submit to investigations of racism, even though we have both his congressional voting record, okay? He voted for the crimes bill. I think it was the crimes bill of 1994. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was the crimes bill of 1994. We have comments he's made about African Americans that show his bias. Maybe he's not a racist specifically, but show his bias, that he has prejudiced ideas and prejudiced viewpoint toward African Americans. So we have some evidence that Biden is not the candidate we want. Now, Trump is definitely not the candidate we want. Trump has said that he's going to be the law and order president. He said that the peaceful protesters were terrorists and then they had to be dispersed. He made all sorts of comments and remarks that showed that he was an extremist when it came to race. He said terrible things about Mexicans and immigrants and banned Muslims from coming into the country. Has a very bad track record on race. So the real question you have to ask yourselves is, what do you want? Do you really want to choose between a couple of devils? Or would you rather choose a real human being? if you had a third choice? Do you really want to choose the lesser of two evils? Or would you want to choose somebody who's good even if they don't have a chance of winning? What do you stand for, and is that important to you? Just asking. Just a quick question asking you what you believe in, who you support, what you think, what you feel. Do you vote the issues? Or do you vote for whoever you think is going to win? And if you do vote for whoever is going to win, do you always vote for the most popular candidate, the one you're sure is going to win? Or do you vote for someone who has the best chance of winning that supports some of the issues you support? Good question, isn't it? Like, I'm a moderate, and Biden's a moderate. So you'd think I would be for Biden automatically, wouldn't you? But not necessarily. What happened was I began investigating some of the other parties, and the things that they said really opened my eyes. The things I read the Never Biden people said really opened my eyes. Like, for example, both Biden and Trump have been accused by multiple women of sexual assault and sexual misconduct. Multiple women. 25 women. 25 accused Trump. He called them all liars. Biden was accused by 8 women, and 1 woman accused him of sexual assault. He called them all liars. And Biden said Biden actually said, there is nothing I have ever done in my entire life that I've been ashamed of. Psychopath! Never apologized, never did anything he was ashamed of. Psychopath territory. Very scary guy. I wouldn't want to vote for someone like that. Not if he was the lesser of two evils, not for any issues, not for any reason at all. Biden apologizes without really apologizing. He really doesn't show his humanity in saying that he isn't ashamed of anything he's ever done. He's just a dirty politician. And he's a parrot. He hears systemic racism and he repeats systemic racism because he thinks it's what people want to hear, but he doesn't understand it. He doesn't even understand black people. Like, I'm a common person and I understand black people a hell of a lot better than Biden does or ever will. He doesn't understand that black people are people just like you and me. He doesn't understand that. He looks down on black people, and he made racist remarks, or at least I perceived it as racist based on my what I know and my personal feelings. So I'm not satisfied with either candidate. I'm not satisfied. Both of them have been accused of sexual assault. Trump's been accused of rape. And both candidates have been accused of inappropriate touching and sexual misconduct. So this is a real problem. I can't vote for candidates like that. I just can't. The more I think about it, like I thought to myself when I heard the accusations about Biden, I was like, well, she's probably lying because she's a Republican and she's motivated against him to get him in trouble so that he doesn't have a chance of winning. And I heard she was a Republican and I didn't believe her accusations. And Biden even said to women, he said to my women voters, if you believe her accusations, you probably shouldn't vote for me. So he's basically issuing a challenge to her validity and to her truthfulness. He's basically saying, don't you believe her? Don't you believe her? I'm all right. I didn't do this. And if you believe her, you probably shouldn't vote for me. You should probably vote for my competitor. But here's the interesting thing: why should anyone vote for Donald Trump if they believe Biden's accuser? Because he's been accused too. They're both equally bad, right? And I can't do that. I can't vote for the lesser of two evils, or just vote the issues and not pay attention to what these men have done, to what these men have said. I can't do it. And both of them go to extremes. Neither one of them supports all the things that I believe in. So who am I going to vote for? Well, there's a lot to choose from. A lot of you will probably vote for the Green Party. I know that. You'll probably choose the Green Party. I heard that Jesse Ventura is going to run as a presidential candidate for the Green Party. That he's running for the Green Party now. That he wants to be the Green Party's candidate. And there's a lot to choose from. So don't allow me to tell you who to vote for, because there's a lot to choose from, and I'm sure you can find someone who's reasonable, that you approve of, that you like. And so go ahead and vote for anyone but Biden or Trump. Go ahead. Feel free. And if you vote for a third-party candidate, even if they don't win, you will send a clear message, loud and clear, to these candidates. We don't like you, and you don't support what we support, and you don't stand up for the values or the issues that we care about. Now, I'll tell you who I'm going to vote for. I don't want to bias you or prejudice you against the other candidates. But I really like Jo Jorgensen. And she's the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. And I'll tell you why I went with a Libertarian candidate. I sort of have a history of supporting libertarianism and the Libertarian Party. Like, I was involved with libertarian politics back in the 90s. So it's been a long time since I was involved with libertarians. The reason I left them was because they want to eliminate Medicare, first of all. And they call it a legacy policy, like it's almost already gone, right? And they want to eliminate Social Security. And when I became permanently disabled, when I was mentally disabled, when I was having psychotic episodes and out of my mind and could not function at a job at all, I relied on Social Security and Medicare just to live and just to get by and to not be on the streets. So there's things that the Libertarian Party espouses that I don't agree with, necessarily. Still a moderate liberal, but I don't think they have a chance of eliminating Social Security or Medicare. I really don't. Even if they were the president, even if the president was in office and was a libertarian, I really don't think that they can eliminate it. But there's things that they support that I do support, like, for example, legalization of drugs. Like, I don't think every drug should be legalized. Like, poison should not be legal. But like fentanyl. Fentanyl is poison. You don't really get high on fentanyl, it kills. And every person who's died so far has been found with fentanyl in their system. Prince died of fentanyl. Jackson died of fentanyl. Michael Jackson. So fentanyl kills. So that shouldn't be legal, but all these other drugs, marijuana, for example, should definitely be legal. Psychoactives should be legal. And and maybe also like legalize prescription medications. Like, okay, it's okay for a company to have a patent on a medication, but like you shouldn't have to go to a doctor and get a prescription to get your medications. That's how doctors keep you coming back again and again and again and again. Now, some people say, well, it's a good idea to have the doctor reassess you from time to time to see if you need a medication. But I found on my own that it's much more effective and economical for me to control my own medications. And it's like I've told my psychiatrist when I was changing my medications, but I was able to figure out what dose was effective on my own. If I'd left it up to my doctor, I'd be on another drug by now, and another, and another, and I wouldn't be under control anymore. My symptoms would not be under control, and I would be having side effects that are very severe. So it was good that I was in control at home and controlled my own dose. So sometimes doctors aren't the best authorities on your health. Sometimes it's better to have control yourself. And if they legalized prescription medications and allowed everyone to go get them, people wouldn't have very many problems, would they? They'd be able to go get their medications anytime they want from the pharmacy. Wouldn't that be great? They'd still be expensive, but you could get them anytime you wanted. Now, here's the deal. Like legalization of drugs. Like all these people who are in prison for nonviolent crimes, their only crime was possession. Whether it was a little or a lot, they're all in jail for possession of illegal drugs, and sometimes they weigh them, and just like a quarter of an ounce makes a difference between a 2 or 3 year sentence and a 10 or 12 year sentence or more. So Jo Jorgensen says that she will pardon everyone who is in jail right now and in prison for a non-violent drug offense. She'll pardon them all and they'll be free. We've got so many people in our criminal justice system right now who are there just because of a drug offense. They would all go home to their families. And people get high. And I don't care about that. I'm not into drugs. But legalization would decriminalize for a lot of people. There would be a lot of people. And at the same time, it would take away the profit motive from drugs. Because drugs would be a lot cheaper if there was competition. Just saying, no more gangs, no more violence. Things would be pretty peaceful, right? If drugs were legalized, most of them were legalized. Like, there would still be laws about intoxication. People driving under the influence of cocaine is not a good idea. Because when you're on cocaine, you think you're Superman and you're ready to jump out a window. I don't think someone like that should be driving. And amphetamines. You see a spider web, the spiders on amphetamines, it's all skewed and there's big holes. Amphetamines skew your sense of reality, so you shouldn't be driving under the influence of amphetamines or flying a plane. And you um, shouldn't be doing pot and driving, even pot, and certainly not hallucinogenic drugs, because that obscures your vision. But you know, other than that, other than flying or operating machinery or driving, um, drugs are pretty safe. It's kind of rare for someone to, for example, commit murder under the influence of a drug. Uh, most drugs, most drugs don't have that effect. So you could legalize a lot of the drugs, the non-lethal ones. Heroin kills a lot of people. I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that they wouldn't legalize heroin because it kills so many people. I mean, people were dying early on of heroin abuse. So maybe not heroin either. Certain drugs in certain combinations, cause. If you get your drugs from a pharmacy, like over the counter for these drugs that are commonly abused, a pharmacist could tell you if it interacts with the drugs you take every day, even over the counter. It's like, don't take aspirin with this. So there's that. That would be a big, big bonus. And another thing is crushing poverty that we're under, and the way that Social Security recipients, the way it's set up, where people aren't allowed to save any money, and there's like a $2,000 or $3,000 limit, $2,000 for SSI, and $3,000 for Medicare. That would be gone, hopefully, for these legacy programs, that they wouldn't prevent people from saving. You could, for a rainy day or for an emergency, which is a big deal. The borders would be open. You could go to any country anytime you like, maybe even without a passport, unless the foreign country requires a passport. And people from other countries would be able to come here anytime they like. It would be open borders. No more ICE. No more guys at the border. No more border wall. Construction of the border wall would be halted immediately. Might even be dismantled under Jo Jorgensen. Just some things to think about. I'm just telling you why I'm voting for her. I agree with some of the things. I disagree with others. Like, for example, she wants to eliminate taxes as much as possible. I can understand small government. That's always a good thing. But if we had taxes, we could use taxes to send kids to college for free, for example, which would be great. And that'd be great if major corporations paid their fair share, and you could send kids to college. Like, there's a few tax loopholes, but one of the biggest ones is that these corporations, these major corporations, have taken so much money. Oh my gosh, they have the same income as the GDP of a large European country. That's like Amazon, right? Amazon, Google, these big giants online. They'd have to pay their fair share if we eliminated some of these tax loopholes, and then you could send all your kids to college. Just a thought. Just a thought. So there's some things that I don't agree with, like eliminating as much taxes as possible. Eliminating big government, yes, because government intervention in our lives causes so many problems, including poverty. But eliminating taxes, no. And it would be nice for us to repay all our debts and to have a surplus. We had a surplus under Clinton for a while. That's gone now. They've spent a ton on the military and on welfare programs. These other presidents, they've spent money recklessly. And they've given government bailouts, which is also unfair. And it's been corporate welfare. And everyone's suffering because of it. So ending corporate welfare and corporate bailouts would be a huge deal. Ending tax loopholes would also be a huge deal. Like the way that Amazon gets away with it, getting so much money and paying $0.00 in taxes, is that they take that money and immediately reinvest it in their company by building new factories, new warehouses, new storage facilities. They own a lot of real estate. They buy a bunch of real estate and build a bunch of warehouses and expand their business. And then they declare $0.00 are owed in taxes. If you made them actually pay the money instead of expanding their businesses, if they had to pay the taxes before they spent it on anything else, even inventory, if they had to pay first before they could expand their businesses, and they owed money on, if they owed taxes on all of their income, not just the net income after they've made their purchases and their investments, that would be a lot of money. A lot of money. And if all these big businesses, all the biggies, had to do that, and even small businesses had to do it, that would be a lot of money. You could give people college with that kind of money. So there's some things that I don't agree with Jo Jorgensen on. Medicare and Social Security is one thing. Another is taxes. But there's a lot of things I do agree with her on that I support. And she's so much better. She's so much better of a candidate than either Biden or Trump. I just can't stand those guys. And I understand now, like, what I'm taking the never Biden people more seriously now. Now you're going to say, well, if you vote for Jo Jorgensen, you're throwing your vote away. If you vote for any third party candidate, you're throwing your vote away. You're just throwing it away because these are the only two candidates that have any chance of getting elected at all, and you should just vote for the lesser of two evils. Well, my conscience won't allow me to do that this time. So that's it. If you vote your conscience, you'll get to sleep at night. You'll be able to sleep soundly, and you'll never be sorry. So if you pick the Green Party candidate, that's fine. If you pick Libertarians, that's fine. If you want to vote for one of these independents, there's so many of them that haven't made enough votes to get on any ballots. Vote for one of them, that's fine. And vote for whoever you want, even the lesser of two evils guys. But I know what I'm going to do. I know who I'm going to vote for. So just think about it a while. You've got a long time till Election Day. Just think about it a while. And in the meantime, you can push all of these candidates, all of them, even Trump, um, to investigate themselves and their own offices for systemic racism. And I'll see you next time.